My name is Tomas Martinez. I am a local entrepreneur here in San Antonio, and I'm fired up to be talking to college students. I normally talk to a lot of realtors, so this is like a breath of fresh air. And I appreciate everybody that was willing to kind of chat with me before we got started. But I'm pumped to be here to talk to you about real interviewing, because I heard word on the street is that a lot of you are about to graduate. Is that right? Yes. All right. Who's fired up about graduating? Okay, some of you are not excited about graduating. What? I know you told me you're going to keep going back to school. So he's like, I got to be here longer anyway. So I get that. I have my master's as well, so I know that feeling. Just want to keep going. So listen, today is going to be really about you. I really want to focus this about you and the next piece of your journey. Because when you graduate, that's just one part of the journey, right? It's just one piece of the puzzle. And the next phase is going to be really, really important. And that's going to be the phase where you start interviewing. You start looking for the job that you want to have. And so I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. My wife and I own Luxury Home Magazine. Has anybody ever seen this publication? It's a really large real estate publication. We started this publication back in 2011. And we've had it for the last 7 years. We just celebrated 7 years, which is awesome. Do y'all know how long most small businesses last? What's the research on that? Yeah, it's really hard to get to 5 years, right? So we got to 7, and I'm like, all right, it's time to celebrate, right? Now, let alone a magazine. Do you know how long magazines normally last on average? Typically, you might get 1 to 2 years out of a magazine. It's really, really difficult. So let me tell you my journey, because it's really important that you know my journey so you understand where I'm coming from. So grew up in military, grew up here in San Antonio for a little while, and then I moved to Buda, the metropolis of Buda. All right. Now, it wasn't as cool as Buda is today. Y'all know what's in Buda right now, right? Cabela's. Buda blew up. Like, it's crazy. So I graduated from high school and decided I wanted to play college basketball. Any college athletes in here? Got some college athletes? Okay, cool. Well, Duke didn't call me. I'm really upset about that. All right. Duke didn't call. UT didn't call. And I had to go to Wayland Baptist. And thank goodness Wayland Baptist took me. So I went to Wayland Baptist to play basketball. I was there for a year. And then after that, my dad said, look, they're not paying for your school. You didn't get a scholarship. You need to come home. So I came to San Antonio, and I went to UTSA and got my degree and became a teacher. I was an elementary teacher for 11 years. And let me tell you, it was one of the best jobs I've ever had. I absolutely loved being a teacher. Loved it. Every time I think about it, I get excited. So was a teacher, and then I got my master's degree. And then we got this crazy idea, my wife and I, to be entrepreneurs, like to start our own business. And I had never really understood that word, or I didn't even really know how to spell that word, let alone knew what it was, right? So this idea of being an entrepreneur was just like, business owner, entrepreneur. It's like, wow, this sounds really interesting. Well, let me tell you, do you think that first year was easy? Do you think the second year was easy? Do you think the third year was easy? Do you think the 7th year was easy? No, listen, if you want to own your own business, the one thing you're going to learn is that you're going to need people around you. You're going to need a team. You're going to need people helping you with your vision and your dream. And so if you've got a good team, you can accomplish a big, big dream. And so that's what I have. Gabe is my main man. He really helps me out with everything that we do with the magazine. So because of Luxury Home Magazine, I own San Antonio and Austin. Anybody ever see the luxury homes in Austin? The houses that they have up there? Insane, right? This house in the middle, that's Thomas J. Henry's personal home. Y'all know who Thomas J. Henry is, right? Yeah, that's his personal home right there in the middle. I've been in that house. It doesn't even make sense. Like, I think my house can fit in the garage. I mean, that's how big this house is, right? So the interesting thing is because of our entrepreneur, we took the risk to start Luxury Home Magazine. We then were able to buy a school. Now you say, okay, everybody asks me the same question. How do you buy a school? Well, the school that my son went to, it's a Spanish immersion academy, and we found out it was for sale. And so I told my wife one day over breakfast, we always meet for breakfast during the week because it's kind of our getaway time. She said, why? And I said, I think we need to buy the school. And she thought I was crazy. and I was a little bit, but we were able to purchase a school and take it over, and that school has flourished with my wife's direction. Now, I was the one that was supposed to do it, right? I have the administrative degree, a master's in administration. I have the education background, but that wasn't where the best fit for me was. The best fit for my wife was there, and she's doing an amazing job. And then last but not least, we started our third company, which is TM3 Impact. That is a speaking, coaching, and training company that I just love getting in front of people. I love helping, and that's what today is all about. I want to help you get prepared for the next step in your journey with real interviewing. So now I need everybody to stand up. Everybody stand up, please. Stand up where you are right now. Just stand up in your seat. And this is going to be really easy, I promise. I'm not going to make you do the hokey pokey, all right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for you to, if the answer is yes, you're going to keep standing. Everybody understand? If the answer is yes, you stay standing. If the answer is no, you're just going to take a seat. Everybody understand? All right, here we go. First question. If the answer is yes, keep standing. I cannot wait to get out of college. Okay, good. All right. Everybody is ready to get out. I love that. Number 2. Now, this is an interesting one, and I'll be very curious. Everybody stay standing. If you're coming in, stay standing. If the answer is yes, remain standing. Number 2, question number 2. I have completed an internship during college. If you haven't, take a seat. Very good. All right, those of you that are standing, you have done an internship. Okay, interesting. Very interesting. Next question. I have been interviewed for a job in the last 6 months. I've had an interview. Who's had an interview? Okay. So once you sit, just stay down. If any of those are like a no, right? One of those was a no? Okay. All right. So the people standing, you have interviewed for a job and you've done an internship. Am I right? We're following along. And you really want to get out of college, right? All right, good. Next question. I have been to 5 or more interviews in the last 6 months. Interesting. Okay, tell me your name.
Caitlin Lopez.
Caitlin Lopez. Give her a hand real quick, please. Give her a hand. All right, Caitlin, I want to give you a book. All right. This is my favorite author, John Maxwell. I'm actually a John Maxwell speaker and certified coach. Listen, you, my friend, are well on your way to being prepared for the next stage. Not that everybody isn't prepared, but you're well on your way to being prepared. So congratulations. Here's your book. Enjoy. I put a little message in there for you as well. Now, for those of you here, you understand that the next phase, are you going to have to interview? Right? Is everybody here going to have to interview? Yeah. How many of you are looking forward to that process? Anybody looking forward to it? Yeah, I like that. Philip's like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready, right? So let me tell you my experience recently, because I've been an entrepreneur for the last 7 years. I haven't really been interviewed for anything in a while. Even my teaching positions, I got the job I wasn't interviewed for, right? Except for my very first interview as a teacher. When I came right out of college, I walked into a boardroom and there were 12 people in this room. This was for a teaching job. And I walked into that room and you think I was sweating? I was sweaty. I was like, what in the world is going on? Why are there so many people in here? Like, they had 12 people in the room and they started asking me questions. Do you think I was ready for that as coming fresh out of college? Do you think I prepared for that? No. And that's what I want to, that's why I'm here. Because I want to prepare you for what you're going to face when you start going to these interviews. Because if you really want to take that journey and you want to get to the next step of your journey, you're going to need to know a few tips to get ready, to be prepared. Now, my last interview that I just did was for EO. Y'all know what EO is? The Entrepreneurs Organization. That's what brought me here today. The Entrepreneurs Organization is an amazing organization here in San Antonio where entrepreneurs come together to learn and learn from each other. And it is a true think tank of entrepreneurs working together. Now, later on, I'm going to have a Q&A where you can ask me questions. But we're going to go through this because I really feel like this piece to selling yourself and understanding how to interview is going to be vital to your success in the next phase. Are we ready? All right, so this part, in real interviewing, the first word that I want to touch on is rapport. Rapport. Now, everybody here understands rapport, right? Y'all know what I mean by that word rapport? Everybody knows what that means, right? One of the key things is what has been found by research is that when you go to interview, if you can build rapport within the first 2 to 3 minutes, your interviewers, they actually start to relax with you. You know how many people I've interviewed? I've interviewed a lot of people, okay? And what typically happens is most college, when people come in that haven't had that experience, they come in and they're very, very nervous, and they don't try to, a lot of times they don't do the research on what they're trying to get a job for, right? In order for you to find common ground and build rapport, you're going to need to do some research to learn about the company. And you're going to have to find that connecting ground right away. The other thing is you need to know your strengths and your weaknesses. Now, when you walk into an interview and you know what you're good at, do you think that's going to help you? Right, it's going to help you, trust me. If you know, hey, I'm good at this, I'm good at Microsoft, I'm good at Adobe, or I'm good at managing people, even though I haven't managed anybody, but I feel like I'm good at it, right? You have to know your strengths and be confident in those strengths. That helps with rapport. Now, here's the big one. Whenever I interview people, it always makes me, it kind of makes me smile, because I notice that when people come in, they don't want to make eye contact in an interview. They kind of like, they kind of look at you, but they're really nervous. So it's like eye contact gets real uncomfortable after a while, But here's what happens. If you can learn that in your interview process to just remember to smile and make eye contact, you will start to build rapport. As some of you were coming in, did y'all notice, anybody notice what I did when I was walking around? Anybody see what I was doing? Raymond, right? Raymond, what did you notice what I was doing whenever people were starting to walk in the room? I started talking with people, right? So what do you think that helps for me? See, I know Miracle. I know Raymond, right? I know Philip, John. I started meeting people. Who does that help? Does that help you or me? That was helping me be comfortable in this space. It helps me feel confident in this space. So rapport is not just about them feeling comfortable. It helps you feel comfortable, right? So warning, whenever you go to an interview, please, by all means, don't get too comfortable too quickly. And what I mean by that is sometimes you can walk into an interview, and Philip, you were telling me earlier that you probably are going to have an interview with somebody you know, right? So typically when we get an opportunity with somebody we know, we walk into the interview and it can get really casual really quickly, right? Because we're like, hey, they know me, I know them, here we go. This is a layup. But here's the problem. You want to keep that conversation professional and comfortable, but you don't want to get too friendly too quickly. It's very, very important that you always keep that in mind. So small talk. Does everybody know about small talk, right? Now, Miracle, we had some small talk, right? Right? How did you feel in that conversation? You felt comfortable, right? Now, I'm going to tell you why she felt comfortable. She may not know why she felt comfortable. Do you know, I'm going to ask, do you know why you felt comfortable with that conversation? Because, okay, I know how to talk to people, which is true, yes. Who are we talking about? We're talking about you. What does everybody like to talk about? Themselves. Have you seen Instagram lately? Hello, right? What do people like to talk about? And if you're sitting across from somebody and you're paying attention and you're looking them in the eye and you're saying, tell me about you, you talk about building rapport. So when you go to an interview and you're sitting with someone in that interview and you notice and you see, oh, you went to UIW? I went to UIW. Oh, you went to UT? My uncle went to UT. Man, I thought about going there, but I got an opportunity of a lifetime to go to UIW. You see, small talk is part of rapport. And don't minimalize that to where you think you can't have small talk with people. You can. And it's very, very important because small talk is the game changer in interviews. Here's the thing that will kill an interview very quickly. And it's called body language, right? Now, for most of you here, because you haven't gone through this process of being interviewed yet, many of you haven't, you need to understand that your body language tells a story, right? When you walk in that room, how you hold yourself, how you walk into that room tells a lot to that business owner. So if you walk into that room kind of like real, kind of, timid, not with your, your shoulders back, very confident. Now, when you start to sit down and you're answering questions, typically it's like the movie, Talladega Nights, right? Is it Talladega Nights, right? What do I do with my hands, right? I don't know what to do with my hands, right? Listen, most of you talk with your hands. Most of you are animated. When you start talking, you use them. So if you're in an interview, be yourself. If you're talking and you pull out your hands, like I naturally just start, they just start going. Just part of my natural conversation. For many of you, you do the same thing. It's okay to be yourself in that interview and use your hands and have body language. If you're slouched back in the chair, just all relaxed with your legs crossed and you're doing the interview, trust me, you're portraying what to that interviewer? What are you portraying? You don't care. Whatever. I don't know if you're hiring, but let's go on and get it over with. I'm here, right? It's like the Kanye interview, right? He's just there, but he's not there, right? You want to be leaning forward. You want to have your body language saying, hey, I'm here, I'm ready. Body language is very important. All right, so I need somebody to help me read this. Who can help me read this, please? Go.
Candidates who manage to find common ground with interviewers and spark a sense of trust before the interviewers seek higher overall scores from interviewers and those who perform equally well on the interview but fail to generate that early sense of connection. According to the study led by Brian W. Swider, an assistant professor of organizational behavior at the Georgia Institute of Technology, Atlanta.
So this was an article in the Wall Street Journal. So what is this telling you? What is this telling you? You got to make a connection, right? How do we make a connection? With rapport, with small talk, with finding common ground, talking about things that are common. But who do we want to keep that on? We want to keep it on them, right? One of the rules of selling is, because I do a lot of selling, right? One of the rules is if you're talking with someone that you're a prospect and they mention something that you have a common ground in, the normal tendency is they say, yeah, I went to college and I played basketball. The normal tendency is for you to do what? I did that too. Right? It's our normal tendency to just bam, right? Here's what common ground is. Common ground is not interjecting in the middle of their story. Common ground is allowing them to finish and coming back and making small talk and making these conversations that have meaning and connection as opposed to just talking about nothing. Okay? So it's really important. Now, we got to talk about, in real interviewing, we got to talk about enthusiasm. All right? Do you think I'm an enthusiastic person? Anybody? They think, okay, that's pretty much right there in my DISC profile. It's just, I'm a high I. If y'all know DISC, have y'all done DISC yet? All right, you need to do DISC, all right? DISC is a kind of an assessment to where you fall in the DISC, the DISC, and I definitely fall in that area. So let's talk about enthusiasm. First thing, any of y'all watch The Office? Any Office fans here? Okay, who remembers what Dwight would do before he would go into a sales? What would he do? Everybody remember?
He'd lock the doors in the car and turn up music.
Yes. He'd lock the doors in the car, and Jim would always go, you got to do that again? He's like, yes, give me the keys. And he gets in the car, and he's like jamming out, right? He gets all pumped up. Here's the thing. Before you go to your interview, you need to get excited about the opportunity that you have in interview. Now, what if it's not your dream job? Listen, life is a journey. Where you are for the next 5 years is not where you're going to end up. Remember what I just said. The job you have over the course of the next 5 years is probably not where you're going to end up. Other opportunities will present themselves. So you need to go into every interview just pumped up. Be like Dwight. Be pumped up. You need to practice a firm handshake. Stop giving these little fish handshakes. All right? Seriously. Your handshake tells something about you. And in an interview, you want to have a firm handshake. When we interviewed Gabe came in and I interviewed him. He went through 2 interviews with us. And then he ended up meeting Christina, my wife. And the first thing Christina said is, "That's a good handshake. That's a good handshake." And I remember laughing about it. I was like, yeah, that's my wife. She would catch that. But seriously, this is a big deal. The other thing is, when you smile, you can't help but be excited. Have you tried to be upset smiling at the same time? It's really hard, right? It's like when you smile, that enthusiasm starts to build, that excitement starts to build. So be the spark, smile. And remember, you are selling yourself. When you go to an interview, you are trying to portray selling yourself to that company. It's about them knowing who you are and what you're capable of. So it's really important that you sell yourself and have some enthusiasm. All right, need another reader. Go.
For every sale interview you miss because you're too enthusiastic, you will miss 100 because you're not enthusiastic enough.
Let that sink in for a bit, right? I inserted the word interview, but this was talking about sales. Zig Ziglar was talking about sales here. Some of you think, well, if I'm too enthusiastic, I might not get the job. True, you might not get the job, but let me tell you, if you walk in there just kind of like, I'm here, I'm ready for the interview, I just guarantee you, you're not getting that job. So trust me, this enthusiasm stuff works. Now we got to get into attention to detail. This is critical for success. When we talk about real interviewing, you need to have attention to detail. And what does that mean? As I said earlier, do your stinking research. You better know about that company before you go to that company interview. What does that mean? Tell me what that means. What does that mean? Give me an example. Look at their website. Okay, good. What else? What? Oh, knowing their mission statement. That's good. Yes. Yes. What else? Their values. That's powerful. What else? History of the company. Who founded it? Who started it? When did it start? What else? Come on. Keep going.
Where it's going.
Where it's going. You can kind of see their track record, and maybe you can see at this point in there, they were doing X and now they're doing Y. And maybe that could be part of one of your questions. Because let me tell you something. If you go to an interview, what does every interviewer ask you at the end of the interview? Do you have any questions for us? And let me tell you, I've sat through many interviews where people, college degrees, master's degrees, come into my office for a position and they did not have one single question. Not one. No, I don't have any questions. Trust me, do your research and make sure you have questions to ask them when you go into that interview. You need to have questions to ask. Do your research. The next one is smile. Hey, are you seeing a trend here? Are you seeing a trend here? Right? A smile tells a story, guys. A smile tells a story. You have to smile. Attention to detail. Make sure that you are smiling and that you are the spark. Now, this is important. We live in a day and age, right, where like my sneakers here, this is something that is kind of seen as cool. This is something, hey, we can wear sneakers now with a jacket, right? But here's the deal. How you look matters. Dressing like this for your interview is probably a no-go. Trust me. Don't do it. What about the second interview? Can I be a little bit more casual in the second interview? No. What about the third interview? Can I be casual in the third? Well, it's the third interview that we've had a lot of small talk. We've gotten to know each other. The answer is no. How you look matters. It tells a story. You need to dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Dress for the job you want, not for the job that you have currently. Because raise your hand if you're working right now. Who's working right now? Who has a job right now? Okay, fair enough, hands down. Now, the way you dress at that job, could you go to an interview? All of us can agree with that, right? So you've got to step your game up. If you're a guy, trust me, get a suit. Go to Men's Warehouse. You can get like 2 of them jokers for like $300. Okay? And they'll fit it and it'll look good. All right? So don't have the excuse that, oh, well, I can't get a suit. Trust me, you can get a suit. And why do I say get 2 suits? Because you can rotate them jokers. When I started Luxury Home Magazine, I had my wife, this is a great story. I don't think I've ever told this story, Gabe. So when I started Luxury Home Magazine, my wife got me for a gift a Brooks Brothers custom suit. But she bought me 2 of them, right? Now, my wife, you got to know my wife. My wife, like, she shops and she doesn't look at, like, she didn't even know what she spent, okay? Like, I said, baby, you have the receipt? Like, what did you spend? I don't know. I don't know what I spent on it. Well, anyway, so I go into Brooks Brothers and I get to hand pick every piece. Matter of fact, this is crazy. I'm getting goosebumps. This is my first Brooks Brothers jacket right here. This is the suit that my wife bought me right here. This is the jacket for the suit. I'm getting chills. And here's the deal. I had 2 suits when I started Luxury Home Magazine. I wore this suit in that first year probably 100, 150 times. And I had a black one. And I rotated them jokers. All right? But you either saw me in this suit or a black suit. And that was it. Now, why is that important for you? I'm not saying you have to go to Brooks Brothers. What I'm saying is you need to look sharp when you're getting started. You want to look the part. You need to look sharp and look the part. Don't go in there sloppy, all right? Make sure that it's tailored, that it fits. You don't want to have your jacket past your knuckles, all right? You want to make sure the jacket fits. A lot of people will go borrow a jacket from a family member. A lot of guys. I did that. It looks terrible, trust me, because it's probably not going to fit. So how you look matters. All right, attention to detail. Now, this is something that I've seen happen a lot, especially when I'm interviewing people. They show up late to an interview. Okay? And typically, what do they tell you when they show up late? What do you think they tell me when they show up late? I got lost. I can't find your office. This is really hard to find, right? Here's the deal. I'm going to tell you this tip. This tip will save your butt. Trust me, this is going to save you. You have an interview on a Wednesday, and it's Monday, and you have no idea where their building is. What do you think you should do? You need to go there on Monday. Before the interview, you need to drive over there. You need to get out of your car and you need to make sure and look and then go, okay, yep, this is where I'm going to meet. And you get back in your car. What is that going to help with? Time. What else? Confidence. Right? You're going to walk in there. You already know where it is. And maybe you've looked around and you can find some small talk as you're walking into the office. You notice that right outside there's a Thai place. And you love Thai food. And you walk in and you go, I bet you guys eat there all the time. And they're like, yeah, man, that's our spot. And you're like, I love Thai food. Boom! Connection. Right off the bat. So attention to detail, please, please, please. I'm telling you this now because you're going to forget. Don't be late to an interview. Don't be late. I will tell you this because I've had situations where I'm looking at a resume and I will read something on a resume And they will look at me with this confused look. What is that? What did it say again on there? Well, it says here that you worked at so-and-so, and is that on that one? Attention to detail. You better know what's on your stinking resume. You wrote it. You better know what's on there. You better know every single point, and if you BS'd any of those points, you better be able to know what you wrote, and you better be able to talk through it. But what I will tell you is less is more. Don't make stuff up on your resume, people. Don't do it. It is an absolute certified way to immediately remove you from the equation for ever being hired at that company. So if you've got 3 points for that one job, keep it at 3 points. Don't just keep going and making stuff up. Trust me, it does not help you, it hurts you. So attention to detail, very important. And last but not least, I'm going to teach you this. You better learn to stinking follow up. This guy right here followed up with me, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 times, Gabe. He called me, texted me, hey, just making sure, hey, when are we meeting? Were you able to get Christina? Because scheduling Christina and I at the same time is pretty difficult. That's hard to do, right? We both are running separate companies. It's very difficult. But he followed up. I had another gentleman who wanted to work for me. He had just graduated from UTSA. This guy found out where my office was because he kept trying to apply and we wouldn't call him back. He found out where my office was, came to the office, knocked on the door, and hand delivered another resume just to make sure that we got it. And when I found this out, because here's the thing, my office location is not necessarily advertised anywhere. He did some serious research to find us. And it was not easy to find us. We don't have our name on the building. I do that on purpose. We don't have anything to know. He found us and came to the office because he just wanted an interview. That wasn't a second interview. That wasn't a third interview. That was, will you at least consider me for the job? Now, with that kind of hustle, do you know what wound up happening? We hired him. Interviewed him 3 times, put that boy through the ringer. Let me tell you, we put him through the ringer and we hired him. But with that kind of hustle, come on, follow up, attention to detail. All right, I'm about to land the plane here so we can have some Q&A. All right, read that for me, please, go. Y'all catch that? It's better for you to be overdressed, even if you're going to something where they don't dress up. I don't know, any of y'all been to Austin lately? If you go to Austin, anywhere outside of downtown, are you going to see a suit? Not a chance. And if you do see a suit, everybody's like, what's he doing? Right? I would wear like little jackets in Austin when I was going around, and I would always get that look like, wait, this is Austin. Where are your flip-flops? Right? It's a different world. But does that mean when you go to the interview, you need to be in flip-flops? No. Now, once you get the job and you have that and you know the norms of the office, then you can kind of start following along with the norms of the office. But until then, you need to dress the part and be overdressed at all times, even if you don't think you need to be. Now, everybody take out your phone. I know you got a phone. Take out your phone, please. We have a quick technology break. Open up your email on your phone. Or if it's your computer, open up your email. Whatever's easier. Take out your phone. This is a really quick technology break because I want to add some more value to you. Number one, I want you to send me an email. So everybody look right here, Tomas@lhmsat.com. I'm not going to spam you. I'm not going to put you in my database. I want to send you a link to the top 30 in-depth tips for your job interview. Okay, this article is flat out amazing. It's on point. It even has a pre-interview checklist to help you with your interview. So go to Tomas, type that in, Tomas Martinez at LHM.com. Just say, hey, I was at your interview class, and then just send it to me. That's it. You don't need to say anything. Well, I already have an email set up in my notes, As soon as I get your email, I'm going to copy and paste, and I'm going to send you the link to this article so that you have that. Fair enough? All right. Everybody done it? Need a little bit more time? Okay. So as soon as I get your email, probably here in the next 2 hours, you're going to get an email from me. Now, the other thing I'd like for you to do later, don't do this now, but find me on LinkedIn. Because I really want to connect with you on LinkedIn, because if I can be a connector for you at any point in your career, if I can connect you and point you in the right direction, let me know. I'd love to help in any way that I can. All right, everybody got it? Everybody got the email? All right, now put your phones away. All right, here we go. Let's keep going. Last one. Limit your response. Now, this is critical to real interviewing. Limit your response. Anybody know what I mean by that? What do you think I mean by that? Short and to the point. I had an interview with a young lady that I asked her one question. She talked for the next 10 minutes. I learned her entire life story, which was not the question. Okay? Some of you will get very uncomfortable with silence. If it's quiet for too long, our normal tendency is to do what? Just keep talking. Gotta keep talking. Gotta keep going. Right? I gotta make this sound really, really good. No, listen, limit your responses. Listen to the question and breathe. They ask you the question, you're like, okay. Breathe. Take that pause, because I learned something. It's probably 2 weeks into selling Luxury Home Magazine. I went and met with a realtor that had been in the business for 30 years. And I sat down with them. And what am I trying to do? I'm trying to sell him on Luxury Home Magazine and buying an ad in my publication. And this went on and became a 3-hour conversation. 3-hour conversation. Why? Because he was testing me. And I'm so glad he did it. Because one of the things he did was he started asking me questions. And the minute he would ask a question, what would I do? I had a response. And I had to give it to him full bore, like, yeah. And I just gave him this huge, long, really in-depth answer. And every time, and now going back and thinking about it, he was doing this on purpose. We walk out of the gyms. We're meeting at gyms, one of my favorite business meeting places, gyms. We walk out of gyms, and he kind of taps my shoulder, and he says, listen to me. He said, I'm going to help you with something. And I hope you remember this for the rest of your life. And I thank him for this tip. He said, listen, when someone asks you a question, you don't have to have all the answers. And you don't have to act like you have all the answers. You should hear the question and think about it. Because when you answer just boom, right away, a knee-jerk response, typically you're going to be speaking out of ignorance and not out of knowledge from yourself. You're just speaking to speak. And that's one of the worst things you could ever do, especially if you're in an interview. You want to speak from within, not from just, let me figure out what do they want to hear? What do they want to hear? No. Don't do that in an interview. Don't tell me what we want to hear. Tell me what's from within. Be authentic, okay? So limit your response. It's okay to pause and think. Don't feel like you have to go on and on and on and on and on to answer that question. Don't feel like you have to keep going and going and going. It's not important. And always watch for body language of the interviewer. So I want you to imagine you're sitting with the interviewer and you're answering the question. And you see the interviewer sitting, they're kind of sitting, and you keep going, and the interviewer's looking at you, and then as you keep going on and on and on, the interviewer just kind of starts to, and they're just looking at papers. They're looking at, because listen, once their body language changes, you need to read the signals and do what? Wrap it up. When you see their body language starts to change, get to the point and wrap it up. Now, as you're talking, if you see them ask a question from this position and they're kind of relaxed, and as you're talking, they go, huh, tell me more. And they sit up, now you know what? You got their attention and you are saying something that's resonating with them. Read the body language. Read what's going on in the room. Look at the other people. Are you typically interviewed by one person or more than one? Typically going to be interviewed by more than one person. So learn the room. Learn to read the language of what's going on in that room and what they're doing. Okay? Body language is very important. And as I just mentioned, learn how they respond to your answer. Visually see how they respond to your answer. So here it is, right? Real selling, real interviewing. You need to build rapport. You need to understand how to build rapport. You need to have attention to detail, enthusiasm. Yeah, just think Dwight on The Office, right? You need to have attention to detail, and you need to limit your responses based on the body language. This is real interviewing. So, time for Q&A. What do you got for me? That's all I have. Now I'll just open it up. How can I help you? Bueller?
If you are, like, for example, if you're the person that you are looking for a job, you know, and you're reading the body language from them, and one of the person is really interested, and then the other person is kind of falling asleep, what do you think about the company? Do you think it's a good company to stay? Because it kind of feels disrespect.
Yeah.
So, you know, if that's something to take into consideration to stay in the company?
Right. Well, here's where attention to detail comes in handy, right? Because typically, one of those people are going to be the decision maker. Right? So you need to figure out, paying attention to detail, which one of these people do I really need to lock in with? Now, the answer to that is you probably need to connect with what? Both of them, right? But if you notice that the person that you're connecting with is kind of the one driving the conversation, then you need to focus all of your attention on that one person. Now, here's what I also will do. I will recommend this. Let's say you go into an interview and you have Billy and Susie. There's Billy and Susie and they're interviewing you, right? Have you ever noticed when you say someone's name, they quickly pay attention, right? Like if I said Philip, right? If I said Philip or I said John, right? I said Miracle or Raymond. It's like, whoa, hey, you just said my name. In an interview, if again, this is attention to detail. If John asked me a question, how should I respond to that? Say his name. John, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked me that. And you direct that answer to John. And you connect with John. Now, as you're connecting with John, who do you take a peek at and make sure they're staying in the conversation? You look over at Susie or Sally, one of those two. Yeah. But you look over at her and you look at her and you know, John, but you concentrate. So in that situation, what I would do is I would make sure that you're connecting with the person that asked the question. And then if you feel like someone's not paying attention, you know, you could always mention their name as you're answering. Right? You could really, you could tell, you could be answering the question, you know, like John said earlier, he's right back in that meeting. He's right back in that interview. So great question. And then in regards to what you said about the company, I wouldn't necessarily let that make or break your decision on the company because, you know, people are human. So you don't necessarily want to take one person's actions and then paint it across the whole company, right? So I wouldn't necessarily let that cloud that. Okay? We got.
Actually, I have another
Please.
You said don't be late, right? Which is, I really think it's a really good point.
Mhm.
Especially, I mean, me coming from the military, we were like 15 minutes, arriving 15 minutes early was like I'm already being late.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what if the person that you're gonna have the interview with, you arrive, 5 minutes before, and that person makes you wait a half hour after
Yeah.
the meeting time.
Yeah. It's called the real world.
Yeah.
It's called real world, right? I'm an entrepreneur. So there are fires that I have to put out, right? And sometimes those fires may interfere with your time, right? But typically, if that's the case, any good business owner or person is going to come in and profusely apologize and say, listen, I know that we were supposed to meet at this time, and this is not something I would normally do, but let me explain. This is what happened. This is why I'm late, right? This is why I couldn't meet you at that assigned time. But that's the real world. I would not let that deter you because things come up when you run your own business. Things that are out of your control, that you can't control. Anyone else? Yes, Raymond.
What do you recommend for like starting entrepreneurs? Like what do you focus on and like how to keep a business going and also like how to manage the growth?
Ooh, okay, that was a lot of questions. Woo! All right, hold on. Let's start with the first one. How do you get started, right? Number one, I think you need to know what you want to do, right? What do you want to do? And you told me you want to possibly do framing. Am I right? Something in the framing business? Is that right? I want to make sure. Okay, so know what you want to do, but then there's a second piece to this that I think is really important, and it's why do you want to do it? Okay? Why do you want to do it? Because a typical answer that everybody will say, well, I need to make money, right? Well, there's a lot of people that make money doing stuff that they don't necessarily enjoy or like, right? So you got to know why you want to do it. And you told me your why earlier. Do you remember your why? You told me why you wanted to do this. You want to start more jobs. You want to get more jobs for more people. Let me tell you, Raymond, you will have a successful company if your why is to help people and to help others. Listen to me, my friend. You are already on your way to becoming a very successful entrepreneur. So the second question was? What to focus on. So in the beginning, you need to focus on maximizing activity, all right? Execution and activity. You need to be completely 100% dialed in to your business and completely in execution mode. So sometimes when we start a company, it's called paralysis by analysis. We're like, we got to get everything ready. It's like, have you ever heard of nesting? You know that term nesting? When we were about to have our first baby, my wife had to get everything perfect, had to get everything ready. And see, in entrepreneurs, this is what can happen to entrepreneurs. They're like, oh, I need a website. Let me go make a website. You know what? I need business cards. Let me go make business cards. And they'll get busy doing a lot of stuff, but they won't actually go frame a dang house. They won't execute. So you want to just hit the ground running and execute. And all of that stuff, yes, is a website important? Yes. Is cards important? Yes. But you really need to get out there and start actually doing something. This is, if you're a Gary Vee fan, he talks about what? It's like the shoes that I have on. He talks about clouds and dirt. Look up this video when you get a chance. Clouds and dirt, Gary Vee. Because listen, the dirt is where you execute. The dirt is where you actually get the grind on. You make things happen. The clouds is where hey, here's my vision. Here's the macro. Here's everything that I want to do. But if you don't execute, Raymond, all that other stuff don't matter. So hit the ground running. What was that third part?
How to keep the business going.
Okay, keeping the business going. CPA. Everybody say it with me. CPA. CPA. Get it, dang CPA. All right? Know where your money is. The death to all entrepreneurs is not knowing where their money is. They don't know where the money is. They're like, wow, we just sold $100,000 and blah, blah, blah. But I don't have any money in my account. It's probably because you don't have a CPA. You don't have anybody watching. So get a CPA from the very beginning. You have somebody watching your back and watching your books. You want to grow into a multi-million-dollar company. You want to be a part of EO. I love Raymond. 5 years from now, 4 years from now, you're doing $1 million, $2 million in revenue, and you come apply for EO. And you become a part of this group of entrepreneurs who are helping each other get better each and every day. I would love to share that story and get goosebumps again. Maybe not in this jacket, but in another jacket, right? Right? So execution, right? You got to execute, and you better know where your money is. Get a CPA. Did I answer all of them?
Just one more.
Okay, good.
How do you manage the growth?
You know, I wouldn't worry about in the beginning. You know, okay, I think the best way to answer this, because see, you know what I just did there? I almost did what I told you not to do, right? What did I tell you guys not to do? Don't just immediately respond. Stop, pause, and think. And I was going to answer that question wrong. But the way you manage growth is by creating a team. You need a team to create and fulfill a dream. So you want to manage your growth. The money that you start making, and here's what happens with entrepreneurs when they start making money. Entrepreneurs start making money, and what happens? New car, gotta have the new house. Let me get that new watch. Entrepreneurs start making money, and instead of keeping the money in the business, they start pulling it out of the business. Because as Gary Vee, they want to be fancy. In the beginning, all that money you're making, you know the school that we own? Every dollar is going back into that school. Every dollar. We are reinvesting. For you and your business, when you're starting out, you want to manage growth, hire another person. Grow. You've got a little bit of money left over. Hire another person. Grow. That's how you manage growth, is hire good people and keep reinvesting in the business. Don't get fancy and start trying to pull all that money out because you want to buy something. Or you want to get the next F-150, right? Or the next Tundra, right? Be very, very conservative in the beginning. Don't spend a lot of money. Be conservative and reinvest. Anybody else? We got 5 minutes, 3 minutes. 2 more questions. Go.
Right, so I know like you were saying that you want to seem like you know what you're talking about and you want to do your research. But when you said it's okay to pause and think, how long does it make it seem, because for an interviewee it makes it seem like it's forever if you pause. But for an interviewer, I guess what's the time limit if you want to pause?
To pause?
Yeah.
It's a good question. I've interviewed a lot of people. Do you know how many people pause before answering a question? It's a knee jerk. They don't do it. You have to be uncomfortable with it. It doesn't matter because now you can't be like you can't be, it has to be authentic. You can't, it's like you can't be a robot. Like you hear the question and you just like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't be a robot, right? But just allow the question to sink in and maybe even repeat it. So, Bill, so the question, okay. All right, so, and you answer the question. Yeah, so make it authentic. Don't, it's not like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not like a hold my breath, think of clouds. No, it's none of that. It's just breathe, pause, let your mind absorb what they just asked you. Because I was going to answer that question completely differently, and I would have given you the wrong answer. Raymond, pause. So that's a great question. One more. Please.
What are some good questions that you like to be asked?
Oh, from the interviewer or interviewee. I'm going to tell a story about Gabe in a minute, but it's a good story though. It's a really good story, Gabe. So I think two things. Number one, I think you should ask, what's the culture like? Now, you guys have grown up with this idea of culture. Like in my generation growing up, culture wasn't a conversation. Now, it's the conversation. And y'all know what I mean by culture, right? Right? I'm not talking about beanbags and ping pong tables. I'm talking about how the organization is run, the culture of the organization. You could say, hey, what's the culture like here? What's the vibe like in your office? I guarantee you, very few, if any, have ever had that question asked. I guarantee you. So another question I could ask, I would say, when can I start? So Gabe, the story I'll tell about Gabe is he was being grilled by my wife. And hopefully you guys get a chance to meet my wife. She is absolutely amazing. She is the reason why I'm here in front of you. My wife has a vision for me beyond what I could ever imagine. We'll be married 19 years in December. And so I tell Gabe, I said, Christina's coming. And he's like, okay, great, I want to be interviewed. So we sit down and interview. Christina asks him, hey, are there any questions and you have for us? She gets a text. She's kind of texting, and he kind of looks at her and he says, what else do I need to do to convince you guys to hire me? Now I heard the question, right? What do I need to do? What else do I need to do to convince you guys to hire me? I looked at Christina, and Christina's kind of doing this, and I look at her. Again, remember her body language. She got distracted because we're busy. And I said, baby, did you hear what he just said? And she goes, no, say it again. And he said it again. It's like, dang, this dude is bold, right? And he said it again, and Christina goes, she kind of stares at him. She looks at him. She stood up. She walked over to Gabe. She went up to him, and she shook his hand. Welcome to the LHM family. You guys figure out the money. I'm out of here. I got to go back to work. It was hardcore. You remember that, Gabe? Yeah, it was hardcore. That's my wife, right? But listen, and I think in the interview, I think you need to ask questions, not just about getting the job or like, hey, when can I start? But I think you also need to be asking questions about, maybe different things like, hey, what exactly are you seeing the fit for me in your company, right? Like, where do you see putting me, right? You could have questions along the lines of not just where you see putting me, but you may even ask, trying to think some of the other questions that I've heard before. Who was the last person hired? Who was the last person hired in your company? The reason why I would ask that question is because that person is going to be what to you? They're going to be somebody that you can go to in this process. They could become a mentor. Now, another question, a follow-up question to that is what? What could you follow that question up with? Who's been here the longest? So in the interview, you say, hey, what's the longest? Who's been at your company the longest? Who's been with you the most recent? Who's your most recent hire? You see, those two questions will tell you a lot about the company. If they go, well, we've been around 20 years. I think our longest employee's been here like 3 years. I'm nervous, right? You've been in business for 3 years and your longest employee has been here 3? I mean, that would, that would kind of make me a little nervous, right? We just celebrated, one of my employees hit 5 years. We've been in business 7 years as LHM, Luxury Home Magazine. We just celebrated with him his 5th year. And to me, I can't tell you as an employer how special it is to have people stay with you and want to be a part of your company. And they're in the journey with me They're in this journey, you know, and you got to have a good team, trust me, to build your dream. So we'll wrap it up. One last question. Anybody else? One last question? Are we good? So everybody knows my email now, right? All right. Everybody email me. What am I going to give you? The 30 in-depth tips for interviewing. I really appreciate this opportunity. Dr. Scott, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Appreciate it.